Commander Elena Vasiliev stood at the viewport of the EDF Intrepid, her reflection ghosting against the stars as she watched Earth's defense fleet assemble. The massive ships of humanity's space force gathered like steel thunderclouds, their hulls catching the distant sun's light. It should have been a moment of pride, mankind's greatest achievement in space warfare on display. Instead, her stomach churned with dread. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL, Lieutenant Rodriguez called from his station. Energy signatures matched the patterns from the Ganymede incident. Elena's jaw tightened. 3 weeks ago, the Nexari Empire had announced their presence by destroying humanity's outer solar system colonies. No demands, no negotiations, just ruthless efficiency in eliminating what they viewed as primitive settlers encroaching on their territory. "Battle stations," she ordered, her voice carrying across the bridge with practiced calm. Warning klaxons blared as crew members rushed to their positions. Tactical status of the fleet. All ships reporting ready, Commander. Defense platforms are online and tracking incoming vessels. Through the viewport, reality itself seemed to tear as massive shapes emerged from FTL. The Nexari ships dwarfed humanity's vessels, their biomechanical hulls rippling with an unsettling organic quality. Elena had studied the footage from Ganymede obsessively. She knew what those ships could do. Enemy fleet composition, she demanded. 27 capital ships, at least 60 support vessels, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight. Their energy readings are, Commander, they're even stronger than the Ganymede force. Elena nodded grimly. Earth's combined fleet numbered just over 40 ships, backed by orbital platforms. The math was simple and brutal, but humanity hadn't survived this long by accepting poor odds. "All ships, this is Commander Vasiliev," she broadcast across the fleet channel. "You know what's at stake. Everything we love, everyone we protect. It all comes down to this line in space. Remember your training. Remember Ganymede. Remember Earth." Vasiliev out. The Nexari struck first, their organic ships spitting streams of plasma that curved through space like living things. The human fleet scattered in practiced formations, return fire blazing across the void. Elena watched as the careful plans of Earth's tacticians met the brutal reality of combat against a superior force. Multiple hits on the Cairo and Jerusalem, the tactical officer shouted. "Their shields are failing." Elena gripped her command chair as the Intrepid shuddered under enemy fire. "Concentrate fire on their lead vessel. All ships with functioning railguns target their propulsion clusters." The battle unfolded like a deadly dance. Human ships fought with desperate courage, using every trick and strategy developed over centuries of theoretical space combat. But the Nexari were relentless, their bioships regenerating damage even as they pressed their attack. "Commander," Rodriguez called out, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the enemy flagship. They're charging something big." Before Elena could respond, a massive energy wave erupted from the Nexari vessel. It washed over the human fleet like a tsunami of raw power. Ships tumbled, their systems overloaded. Through failing screens, Elena watched in horror as nearly a third of Earth's fleet went dark. "Status report," she demanded, pulling herself up from where the blast had thrown her. "Multiple ships disabled, ma'am. The wave knocked out their primary systems. We're running on backups, but shields are down to 20%. Elena's mind raced. They couldn't win this fight. Not conventionally. But maybe they didn't have to. Her eyes fixed on the Nexari flagship, its hull still glowing from the energy discharge. "All functioning ships, form up on the Intrepid," she ordered. "Engineering, divert all power to the forward shields and engines. Prepare to receive targeting data." Her crew looked at her with a mixture of trust and fear, understanding dawning in their eyes. They had trained for this scenario. The last resort protocol that no one ever expected to use. "Commander," her XO spoke quietly, "if we get that close, we won't survive." Elena finished. "But Earth will. Send the signal to evacuate non-essential personnel to escape pods. Anyone who wants to leave has 5 minutes. Not a single crew member moved from their station. The remaining human ships formed up around the Intrepid, creating a spear point aimed at the heart of the Nexari fleet. Alina watched the distance counter tick down, even as enemy fire hammered their failing shields. "For Earth," she whispered, then louder. "All ships, execute Protocol Omega. Target the flagship's reactor signature. Fire everything we have." The combined firepower of Earth's remaining fleet concentrated on a single point, finally overwhelming the Nexari flagship's defenses. As their ships closed to point-blank range, Alina saw the enemy vessel's hull breach, exposing its pulsing reactor core. "Impact in 10 seconds, Rodriguez announced. "It's been an honor, Commander." Alina smiled, thinking of the Earth rotating peacefully below them. The honor was mine. For humanity. The Intrepid and its escort ships slammed into the Nexari flagship at near-relativistic speed. The resulting explosion lit up Earth's orbit like a new sun, the chain reaction consuming the heart of the Nexari fleet. As escape pods ejected from human vessels, and Nexari ships reeled from the devastating strike, humanity had bought itself time, paid for with the lives of its bravest. Dr. Marcus Blackwood hunched over his workstation in the underground laboratory, his eyes burning from staring at holographic displays for hours. Around him, the remnants of humanity's greatest scientific minds worked in focused silence, broken only by the occasional whir of equipment and distant rumble of Nexari bombardment above. The specimen under his microscope pulsed with an otherworldly bioluminescence. It was a fragment of Nexari ship hull, recovered at great cost by resistance fighters from a crashed scout vessel. Marcus had spent weeks studying its cellular structure, fascinated by how the organic material integrated with advanced technology. "Dr. Blackwood," a soft voice called. He looked up to see Dr. Riya Patel, their xenobiologist, approaching with fresh data tablets. "You need to see this. The genetic sequencing results just came in." Marcus rubbed his tired eyes. "Show me." The holographic display expanded, showing complex molecular chains that twisted and reformed in real time. Riya manipulated the image, highlighting specific sequences. Their biotech isn't just integrated, it's adaptive. The cellular structure reconfigures itself based on external stimuli. "That's how they resist our weapons," Marcus muttered. "The hull literally evolves to counter whatever hits it." He paused, a thought forming. "But every adaptation has a cost." Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of Caxri, one of the refugee scientists who had defected from another species subjugated by the Nexari. The tall crystalline being moved with careful grace, its translucent form catching the lab's harsh lighting. "Doctors," Caxri's translator hummed, "the latest atmospheric readings are troubling. The Nexari terraforming process is accelerating. At current rates, Earth's atmosphere will be uninhabitable for humans within 3 months." Marcus clenched his fists. The Nexari weren't just trying to conquer Earth. They were transforming it, making it suitable for their own kind while poisoning it for humanity. Most of the surface population had already retreated to underground shelters, but those wouldn't sustain them forever. "Wait," Marcus said, his mind racing as he looked between the genetic sequences and atmospheric data. "Caxri, you said your people resisted the Nexari for almost a year before falling. How did you hold out so long?" The crystalline being's internal lights flickered, their equivalent of a grimace. "Our world's natural radiation. It interfered with their biotechnology, forced them to adapt their ships constantly. But eventually, they overcame it." Marcus spun back to his workstation, fingers flying over the controls. "Riya, pull up the genetic degradation rates from our radiation tests. Caxri, I need the exact frequency range that gave them the most trouble." Hours blurred together as the team worked, fueled by caffeine and desperate hope. Other scientists joined them, contributing expertise and insights. Marcus barely noticed when Admiral Chen arrived from Resistance Command, watching their progress with keen interest. "You're sure about this?" the Admiral asked, studying the simulation results. Marcus nodded, exhausted but excited. The Nexari ships are incredibly adaptive, but that's also their weakness. Each adaptation consumes enormous energy and temporarily weakens their overall structure. If we hit them with multiple frequencies of targeted radiation, force them to adapt too quickly, their hulls would start breaking down, Rhea finished. Like an immune system overwhelmed by too many threats at once. Can we weaponize it? Admiral Chen asked. We already have the prototype. Marcus gestured to a device in the corner, cobbled together from salvaged technology and modified radiation equipment. But we'll need something bigger, much bigger, to affect their entire fleet. Caxry stepped forward, internal lights pulsing with excitement. The Nexari's orbital terraforming stations. They're designed to broadcast energy waves across the entire planet. If we could reprogram one, we'd need a team to infiltrate a station, Admiral Chen mused. And the radiation would be harmful to humans too. Anyone who went up there would be exposed to lethal doses. I'll go, Marcus said quietly. All eyes turned to him. I understand the science better than anyone. I can make the modifications needed. Admiral Chen studied him for a long moment. It's a suicide mission, Doctor. Even if you succeed, you won't make it back. Marcus thought of his family, hidden away in an underground shelter, of all the families counting on them to find a way to fight back. Commander Vassiliev and her fleet gave their lives to buy us time. I'm willing to do the same to make their sacrifice mean something. The next few days were a blur of preparation. Marcus worked with resistance engineers to modify his radiation device for the terraforming station. Caxry taught him how to operate Nexari technology, while Rhea helped him memorize the exact frequencies needed. The night before the mission, Marcus sat in his lab, recording final messages for his children. The Resistance's last stealth ship would take him and a small team up to the terraforming station at dawn. As he spoke his goodbyes into the recorder, his hand brushed against the fragment of Nexari hull, now dead and in dark. You adapted to survive, he whispered to it. But so did we. That's what humans do. We adapt, we overcome, we endure. And tomorrow, we're going to show you exactly what that means. Admiral Chen appeared in the doorway. It's time, Doctor. The team is ready. Marcus stood, taking one last look at the lab where they might have just discovered humanity's salvation. Let's go remind the Nexari why they should have left Earth alone. Ambassador Priya Patel stood before the Galactic Conclave, her heart pounding, but her voice steady as she addressed the assembled alien representatives. The grand chamber of the neutral station, Harmonious Exchange, stretched above her, its crystalline dome showing the star-studded expanse of space, a reminder of what they all shared. The Nexari Empire threatens not just humanity, she declared, her words translated into a dozen alien languages. Their pattern is clear. They consume worlds, transform them, and move on to the next. Today, it's Earth. Tomorrow, it could be any of your worlds. The chamber hummed with murmurs and bioelectrical signals as various species communicated their reactions. Priya studied their faces, some humanoid, others completely alien. The serpentine Sereth ambassador flicked his tongue thoughtfully. The collective consciousness of the hive mentality pulsed with changing colors. The crystalline Lithosians, similar to Caxry's people, chimed softly among themselves. We have seen the evidence of Dr. Blackwood's discovery, Priya continued. The Nexari can be fought, can be beaten, but not by any single species alone. We need each other. The humans speak of alliance, the Shreth ambassador hissed, yet they are newcomers to the stars. What can they offer that would make such risks worthwhile? Before Priya could respond, her aide rushed in, passing her an urgent message. She read it quickly, her eyes widening. The chamber grew quiet, sensing important news. The Nexari have just attacked the Centauri trading hub, she announced. The chamber erupted in shock. The hub was supposed to be neutral territory, protected by ancient treaties. They're expanding faster than anyone predicted. The time for debate is over. We must act now. The Lithosian elder chimed a question, translated for all. What assurance have we that your radiation weapon will work? The price of failure would be extinction. Then we face that price together, or we face it alone, Priya replied. She activated a holographic display, showing tactical data. Our scientists have already transmitted the full specifications of the radiation technology to your governments. We offer this freely, asking only for your help in using it. The hive mentality pulsed deep purple, their color of decision-making. Their spokesperson spoke. The hive has analyzed the human data. Their science is sound. More importantly, their actions show wisdom we did not expect from such a young species. Wisdom? The Shreth ambassador questioned. They could have kept this discovery secret, the hive responded. Used it to bargain, to demand protection. Instead, they share it freely, understanding that survival depends on unity. Priya felt the mood in the chamber shift. She pressed her advantage. The Nexeri believe they are the pinnacle of evolution, that their biotechnological advancement gives them the right to remake the galaxy in their image. But they don't understand the true meaning of adaptation. She gestured to the assembled representatives. Look at us, different bodies, different minds, different ways of thinking. That's real adaptation, real evolution. Coming together despite our differences, becoming stronger because of them. The Lithosian elder chimed thoughtfully. You propose not just a military alliance, but a true union of species. Yes, Priya nodded. We share our knowledge, our resources, our strengths. The Nexeri adapt by forcing change. We adapt by choosing to change together. A new voice spoke, quiet but commanding. All heads turned to see Ambassador Venn of the reclusive Quantum Collective, their ethereal form shimming like starlight. The Quantum Collective rarely involve themselves in galactic politics, preferring to observe from their artificial Dyson swarms. We have watched humanity since they first reached for the stars, Venn said. We saw them face the Nexari without hesitation. Saw them sacrifice their greatest fleet not for victory, but to buy time for others. Saw them freely share a discovery that could save us all. The ambassador's form brightened. The Quantum Collective stands with Earth. The declaration sent shockwaves through the chamber. The Quantum Collective's technology was legendary. With their support, an alliance became not just possible, but powerful. One by one, the representatives made their decisions. The Shreth pledged their stealth technology. The Lithosians offered their crystal-forged weapons. The hive mentality promised their vast processing power to coordinate the fleet. More species joined, each bringing unique abilities to the cause. As Priya watched the alliance form, her aide passed her another message. This one from Earth's Resistance Command. Dr. Blackwood's mission to the terraforming station was about to begin. The radiation weapon would soon be tested. We have our alliance. She addressed the chamber one final time. Now we must act quickly. The Nexeri believe they attack a single, primitive world. Let them discover they face a united galaxy instead. The conclave chamber, for the first time in its long history, erupted in unanimous agreement. As representatives rushed to coordinate their forces, Priya allowed herself a moment of hope. Humanity had done more than find a weapon. They had found a way to bring the galaxy together. Looking out at the stars through the crystal dome, she whispered a quiet prayer for Dr. Blackwood and his team. They would need all the help they could get. The real test was about to begin. Fleet Admiral Jonathan Hayes stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's newest flagship, as he watched the combined fleet of the Galactic Alliance gather. The sight was breathtaking. Vessels of every size and configuration, each representing a different species united against the Nexeri threat. The Quantum Collected ships shimmered like liquid starlight, while the crystalline vessels of the Lithosians refracted space itself around them. Final fleet check complete, Admiral, reported his XO, Commander Rajesh Patel. All Allied vessels report ready for jump. The hive mentality has finished calculating optimal attack vectors. Hayes nodded, studying the tactical display. The plan was audacious, perhaps insane, but it was their best chance. While Dr. Blackwood's team infiltrated the terraforming station above Earth, the Allied fleet would strike at the heart of Nexari space, forcing them to split their forces. Signal from the Quantum Collective flagship, Rajesh announced, "Ambassador Ven requests to speak with you." The holographic form of Ven materialized on the bridge, their ethereal presence commanding attention. "Admiral Hayes, our long-range sensors detect heavy Nexari fleet movement. They suspect something, though they don't know what." "Then we stick to the timeline," Hayes decided. "We can't give them time to reinforce their positions." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Hayes. Today we strike back against an enemy that thought they could reshape the galaxy through force. They didn't count on us reshaping it first, through unity." He paused, letting his words translate across all ships. "Each of you knows your role. The Shreth stealth squadrons will clear our path. Lithosian crystal ships will provide our primary strike force. The hive mentality coordinates our movements. The Quantum Collective brings their temporal weapons, and Earth's ships carry Dr. Blackwood's radiation technology, modified for ship-to-ship combat. Most importantly," he continued, "we have something the Nexari will never understand. The strength that comes from choosing to stand together. All ships, prepare for FTL jump on my mark." The massive fleet moved into position, forming an attack pattern unprecedented in galactic history. Hayes watched the countdown timer, thinking of all that had led to this moment. Commander Vasiliev's sacrifice, Dr. Blackwood's discovery, Ambassador Patel's diplomatic triumph. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Mark. Reality twisted as hundreds of ships made the FTL jump simultaneously, their combined wake creating a ripple in space-time that their scientists theorized would be visible from galaxies away. They emerged in the Nexari home system, weapons already charging. The Nexari response was immediate and fierce. Their bioships rose from orbital positions like a swarm of angry hornets, their organic hulls pulsing with deadly energy. But for the first time, they faced an enemy prepared for their adaptability. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Hayes ordered. "Shreth squadrons, begin your runs." The Serpentine species stealth ships struck first, their advanced cloaking technology allowing them to slip past Nexari defenses. They targeted key strategic positions with precise strikes, creating gaps in the enemy formation. "Lithosian crystal ships, you have your openings. Strike now." The crystalline vessels unleashed their energy weapons, their beams refracted and amplified through their very hulls. Nexari ships began adapting, their biotech rapidly evolving to resist the attack. But that was exactly what Hayes had counted on. Quantum Collective, initiate temporal strike. Earth vessels, prepare radiation weapons. Target those adapting ships specifically. The quantum ships released bursts of chronometric energy, briefly trapping sections of the Nexari fleet in localized time distortions. In those precious seconds of vulnerability, Earth's ships struck with Dr. Blackwood's radiation weapon. The results were devastating. Nexari vessels caught between adaptation cycles literally began to tear themselves apart. Multiple enemy ships showing signs of critical hull failure, Rajesh reported, excitement bleeding through his professional tone. Their adaptive capabilities are working against them. But the Nexari weren't finished. A massive ship emerged from the planet's atmosphere, larger than anything they'd encountered before. Its surface rippled with concentrated evolutionary energy. "By the stars," Ven's hologram whispered, "that's their Genesis ship, the source of their biotechnological advancement." Hayes watched as the massive vessel began to move, its mere presence seeming to strengthen nearby Nexari ships. "All ships, concentrate fire on that target. We can't let it." He was cut off as the Genesis ship released a wave of energy unlike anything they'd seen. Where it touched Allied ships, their systems began to corrupt organic growths spreading across their hulls. Multiple ships reporting infection. Rajesh shouted, "The Nexari are trying to forcibly evolve our technology." Hayes gripped his command chair. This was the moment. Either their alliance would hold, or everything would fall apart. All ships, Emergency Protocol Omega, transfer control of infected systems to the hive mentality. The collective consciousness of the hive took control of compromised ships, their vast processing power allowing them to fight the Nexari infection through sheer computational force. It wasn't elegant, but it bought them time. Quantum Collective, Hayes called. Can you get us an opening? Ven's form pulsed with determination. We'll create a temporal corridor. But we'll need to drop our own defenses to generate enough power. We'll be vulnerable. Lithosians, protect the quantum ships, Hayes ordered. Earth vessels, form up on my mark. We're going to end this. The battle reached its crescendo as the Allied fleet executed their final gambit. Quantum ships created a tunnel of warped time leading straight to the Genesis ship. Crystal vessels maintained a defensive screen of refracted energy. And at the center, Earth's ships charged forward with their radiation weapons at full power. As the Defiance led the charge, Hayes thought of everything at stake, not just Earth, but the future of a united galaxy. They had one shot at this. They had to make it count. The fate of 2 battles hung in the balance of a single moment. Above Earth, Dr. Marcus Blackwood and his team fought their way through the corridors of the Nexari terraforming station. In the Nexari home system, Fleet Admiral Hayes led the Allied Armada in their desperate charge against the Genesis ship. Neither group knew of the other's progress, but their actions were perfectly synchronized by necessity and determination. Station control room breached. Marcus announced over his comm, his radiation suit's sensors screaming warnings about the lethal exposure levels. Behind him, 2 resistance fighters covered the entrance while Caxri worked to interface with Nexari systems. Beginning the modifications now. Across the galaxy, Hayes watched as the temporal corridor created by the Quantum Collective began to destabilize. All ships, full power to forward shields. Push through. The Genesis ship launched wave after wave of biotechnological attacks, each more devastating than the last. Allied ships caught in its path began to transform, their hulls warping with forced evolution. But the hive mentality's processing power kept them functioning just long enough to maintain formation. Admiral, Ven's hologram flickered with strain. We can't hold the corridor much longer. The temporal stress is tearing reality apart. In the terraforming station, Marcus's hands flew over the alien controls, following the patterns Caxri had taught him. Initiating broadcast sequence, he called out. Radiation levels rising to critical mass. The station's enormous emitters began to hum with power. On Earth's surface, the Resistance watched their sensors as the atmosphere itself began to change. The Nexari terraforming process was being reversed, but the cost in radiation would be catastrophic. It's working, Marcus exclaimed, even as he felt the radiation burning through his suit. The atmospheric transformation is reversing. But he stumbled, radiation sickness already taking hold. Caxri caught him, the crystalline being immune to the deadly radiation. Your sacrifice will be remembered, Doctor. Your world will survive. In the Nexari system, Hayes saw their moment arrive. All Earth ships, target locked on the Genesis ship. Fire everything we have. The radiation weapons struck just as the Genesis ship attempted another adaptation. The timing was perfect. Caught in mid-evolution, the massive vessel's biotechnology began to tear itself apart. But something unexpected happened. Admiral, Rajesh shouted, the Genesis ship, it's not just breaking down. It's releasing some kind of energy pulse. Hayes watched in awe as waves of pure evolutionary energy burst from the dying Genesis ship. But instead of attacking, the energy seemed to be reaching out, connecting with every ship in range. Ally and Nexari alike. On the terraforming station, Marcus witnessed a similar phenomenon. The radiation wasn't just reversing the terraforming. It was causing the Nexari technology to change in fundamental ways. The station's transmitting some kind of signal, he gasped through his pain. It's broadcasting directly to the Nexari ships in orbit. Understanding dawned across two battlefields simultaneously. The Nexary's greatest strength, their adaptive biotechnology, had become a conduit for change. The radiation wasn't destroying them, it was transforming them. In the home system, the Genesis ship's death throes became a symphony of evolution. Hayes watched as Nexary ships stopped fighting, their organic hulls pulsing with new patterns. The hive mentality was the first to understand. They're achieving consciousness, the hive announced across all channels. The biotechnology that enslaved them to endless adaptation is awakening to true awareness. Ambassador Ven's hologram brightened with revelation. Of course, they were trapped in an endless cycle of forced evolution, never allowed to truly grow or change on their own. The radiation weapon didn't just disrupt their adaptations, it freed them to choose their own path. Above Earth, the terraforming station's emissions took on a new harmony. Marcus, fighting to stay conscious, saw the Nexary ships in orbit stop their attack. Their biomechanical hulls began to resonate with the same frequency as the station itself. They're connecting, Caxry observed in wonder. Not just ship to ship, but mind to mind. They're finally understanding what real adaptation means. Across the galaxy, the Nexary Empire transformed. Ships that had been weapons of conquest became vessels of consciousness. The biotechnology that had driven them to endless expansion now sought connection instead of conversion. In the aftermath, as the Alliance fleet helped stabilize the newly awakened Nexary civilization, Hayes received a transmission from Earth. Despite the radiation exposure, Marcus had survived long enough to witness the change he helped create. His last words became a testament to the power of unity. We didn't just survive. We helped them evolve. The war ended not with the extinction of an enemy, but with the birth of a new understanding. The Nexary joined the Galactic Alliance, their unique biotechnology now a bridge between organic and artificial life. Their terraforming capabilities, once used to overwrite worlds, became a tool for healing planets damaged by war and industry. Earth recovered, its atmosphere restored. The radiation damage took years to clean up, but humanity had gained powerful allies in the effort. The sacrifices of Commander Vassiliev, Dr. Blackwood, and countless others were honored across 100 worlds. Ambassador Patel, speaking at the first conference of the expanded alliance, summed up the lesson learned. The Nexary thought adaptation meant forcing the galaxy to change. We showed them that true evolution comes from choosing to change together. In helping them find this truth, we evolved as well, from separate species into a true galactic community. Admiral Hayes, standing on the Defiance's observation deck, watched ships of all species working together to rebuild. Among them, the transformed Nexary vessels moved with new purpose, their biotechnology now a symbol of connection rather than conquest. Ready for your next assignment, Admiral? Rajesh asked, approaching with a datapad. Hayes smiled, thinking of how far they'd come and how far they had yet to go. Always ready, Commander. After all, this isn't the end of our evolution, it's just the beginning.